but I always try and do stuff in camera. And some directors like that, and some like to do, have all those tricks and gizmos and tools. And I remember the writer, Scott Rosenberg, saying to me after Con Air, so like after a few years after, saying, "Oh, wouldn't it have been amazing if we'd had CG when we did Con Air?"
Got it all in there. Simon,
Mm.
how's it going? It's been a few years. I think the last time I spoke to you was on Stratton or Skyfire or probably.
Ah, right, great, yeah, yeah, yeah,
How
great.
you
Well, nice to
guys
see you
been?
again. Good, good. Looks like it's still Christmas where you
Oh
are.
man, don't even. I mean, I'm trapped in a time warp, I think, or something. Been making excuses not to take it down. It's coming down this weekend. So,
Oh, okay. Good.
uh,
So, what can I do for you?
hey, good to see you doing movies again. It's been a little break for you, I feel like, with movies. And
Yeah,
were you on
yeah.
a
Well,
break?
COVID kind of
Yeah.
kicked us all in the teeth,
Yep.
and because of the delay, it takes a while to get back up to running again. But I actually made two in 1 year, which is I've never done before. So I've got another film coming out later in this year, a Rebel Wilson film. So I try to catch up with that little gap from the COVID and then the strikes.
Yeah.
But I think I'm caught up.
There you go. That's good to hear. I always enjoy your stuff. I know whenever I see a Simon West movie, I know what's coming, in that sense. This time I had Christoph Waltz to play with here. Just run it. Was that the first time working with him?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Christopher's not done a lot of movies. When you look at it, you go like,
Yeah.
because he's a senior, very accomplished actor, and you feel like we must have been watching him for the last 30 years, but not really. So there's not a huge amount of films, but when he does, appear, he always steals the show basically and makes a huge presence. So I desperately wanted him to do this part because
Mhm.
the character is so fun and I hadn't seen Christoph do anything like this before, and I don't think the audience had. And I always like to, give the audience something a little different, and unexpected. And I think seeing Christoph being a drunk, party animal, stuck in the '90s guy, is fun to watch. And the fact he's a hitman on the side, it just adds to the magic, And he's not your normal ruthless machine, with no friends and super slick
Right.
hitman. He's this sort of actually a bit degenerate, and not only that, he's aging and is losing his skills and can't even shoot straight anymore because of his arthritis. So he's got all these problems building up against him, and he's trying to still have a fun life because unlike most hitmen, his main priority is to have fun in life, and the hitman part just pays the bills and he's sort of fallen into it. Whereas Cooper Hoffman's character is the exact opposite. This is his life, this is his, as he puts it in the film, this is his art form. And he has no friends, he has no family, and this is all he has is being a hitman. And the two styles clash, emotionally and character wise, but also in a fun visual way. Christoph dresses like he did in the '90s. He drives a '90s car, and Cooper is this, gender fluid dressing Gen Z guy with a health regime and could not be more opposite to Christoph's character. He's like an alien to him. So
Mhm.
the idea that they could work together, he strikes Christoph with horror. But obviously, getting to be together, and they have a referee, of course, with Lucy Liu in
That's
the
right.
middle, who's sort of trying to make them learn something from each other because she can see they're both ultimately nice guys, even though they're hitmen, but are, have no, too much stubbornness and too much stuck in their ways. They're both in a rut, I mean, Lucy's character wants to change. She wants to like have a better life. And these two are perfectly happy with the life they lead. And even though it's being, contract killers. Um, so yeah, that's the fun of it, is the dynamic between those three.
Simon, you've done so much action in your career, doing movies now in 24, 25, this day and age, especially of this genre. Is it different or is the same formula still work? I'm curious since you've done it successfully for a lot of different decades. What is it like now in this day and age to make a sort of a fun action movie like this?
Well, I mean, I've spanned, pre-CGI and,
Right.
now deep CGI, as we say, it's probably, and then going into AI. But I always try and do stuff in camera. And, some directors like that and some like to do, have all those tricks and gizmos and tools. And I remember the writer, Scott Rosenberg, saying to me after Con Air, so like after a few years after, saying, "Oh, wouldn't it have been amazing if we'd had CG when we did Con Air? Think of what we could have done with it."
Hmm.
And I was going like, "It would have been terrible. I mean, CG would have dated after 5 years, and we'd have just done ridiculous stuff that you just switch off." I said the beauty of doing it in camera is it's the audience really believes it's all really happening because it did. We did that stuff in front. Everything you see happened in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And so I haven't really changed that. I mean, I think what's happened in action movies is they've the comedy element, which obviously Con Air had a lot of comedy in it. But what's happened, I think, is the comedy has become so present that it's now involving the audience. The actors are even turning to the camera and winking at the audience and talking directly. And you're breaking that fourth wall, and
Hmm.
the audience is in on the joke, and it's very I don't know, inclusive in some ways, but I got to feel that's got to stop at some point because how far can you go with that? With you know people talking to the audience all the time. I think it's probably going to start going the other way now, where we go back a little bit to having that fourth wall back up and
Hmm.
being able to sit back and really believe what's going on is real, and that we should be quiet because we might miss something. Whereas now you can just talk through it and they're cracking jokes to the audience um yeah. So I think that's the biggest change I've noticed.
That's a really good perspective. The Deadpools of the world sort of open the door to, to that sort of thing where it's like you're in on it. But action movies are supposed to be sort of like wow moments for an audience that you can't pull it off. That's why you're watching it because it's all like, the thrill that you can't replicate and shouldn't be part of. So I totally agree on that perspective. And I would like to see that shift kind of go back to the more natural
Yeah,
origins of that.
yeah. But I even like the way that they do about themselves. Like I think in Deadpool 2, my favorite line is where the he says, "Oh, and now a big CGI fight coming."
Yes.
When the two guys, and you go, "Yeah, well, you're right. It is. It's a big CGI fight coming." So I think that self-referencing is funny. I mean, I laughed all the way through. So,
Mhm.
um, but so I'm not complaining.
I got to ask you, it's been almost 20 years since you did When a Stranger Calls, which is kind of wild. Would you go back to that genre, the horror thriller sort of thing, or are you just like really immersed and love doing the sort of action stuff, or you want to go back and try something else?
Yeah, I mean, I develop lots of stuff all the time, and it just depends which one bubbles to the top and who wants to, give me the money to pay for it. But
Hmm.
I've done straight out comedies with, I did a straight out comedy with, Antonio Banderas called Gun Shy.
Right.
When a stranger calls was the reason I did that. Strange enough, was I don't necessarily think it's a real horror film. It's more kind of thriller
Yeah.
crossover, but I did that because years ago there was a script going around Hollywood called Phone Booth, and it went to like every director in Hollywood. Everybody kept going, "Oh, this is really interesting." The whole film was in a phone booth
That's right. Colin
set in a phone
Farrell,
booth,
one of
and
my favorite movies.
well, that was what actually got made. But the original script never left the phone booth. The entire film was shot in the phone booth, and every director who looked at it went, "Oh, this is interesting to do a film in a phone booth," but nah, it's too difficult. It's like it won't work. So eventually it got made, but they did go outside the phone booth to other places. So they broke that sort of that purity of it. But I guess what happened is when I looked at Stranger Calls, it looked the same thing to me with that it's one actor in a house. What can you do with that? And so I suppose I was harping back to like there wasn't a big ensemble cast, there wasn't tons of dialogue. It was one sort of unknown actor in a house, and what could you do playing around with it?
Yeah.
So it's almost a technical exercise, So, but it was fun, and also turn the horror on it. Instead of the creepy old house we've seen a million times, I was thinking, can you do this in a really modern setting? Can you be scary in an ultra modern house that doesn't creak and doesn't have dark
Hmm.
passages and things like that. And so part of it was like a film school exercise. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested in lots of genres, and so I'm always developing fantasy, sci-fi. The only thing I haven't done, which I'd really like to do, is sci-fi. So I'm
Hmm.
looking for a really good sci-fi project, and I think I might have one on bubbling away right now.
Well, I'd like to see you do it.
Yeah,
That makes feels
yeah,
like a natural fit for you. Sort of with the action and sci-fi works together really nice. This was fun, Simon.
mm.
I mean, I always enjoy your work, and you always bring something new and interesting to a fun genre. So I'm excited to know that you got stuff lined up coming out. That's going to be fun to see.
Thanks, Jim. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, let's do this again. Hopefully, now that you
Yeah,
got stuff coming out, we'll do it sooner.
yeah, and don't forget to take that Christmas tree down
Yeah,
by the
I will. I
weekend.
promise next time we talk, it'll be gone.
Okay,
Take
great.
care,
Thanks,
Simon.
Jim. Take
Good to
care.
catch up.